not a problem if it's.
These won't stay. Water jug. Well, I think I put it on the floor probably, but I'll end up using it. Well, I may end up using it during. I may not. Started my doing some keto.
How fun is that? I've been in keto for fucking like 3 weeks now, and I was telling Shannon last night. I was like, okay, next step is go to the fucking gym because keto by itself isn't going to do anything. You know, you got to burn.
Let's still do something, but yeah.
Well, it's more efficient if you burn.
100%.
So,
dude, I put so like this morning for breakfast I had chicken, fresh garlic, ginger, turmeric, onions, cauliflower rice, and then I drizzled macadamia nut oil on it. Shit tasted so good, and I mean that's a power fucking meal there.
Nut oil. Last night for dinner I had salmon, asparagus, and jalapeno cheese popper.
Oh, I fucking love asparagus.
Yeah, I like the way it makes my piss smell.
Yeah, I love huffing my piss after I eat a bunch of it.
Like you get down and you're like, oh my God. All right, so.
All right.
I guess I'll count it in. 3, 2, 1. Hey, guys. Alex here. AJNashville.com. Here with Mr. Greg.
Boom!
Gregory.
I'm excited to be here, and you guys get to see me be here this time. That's exciting, too.
It is exciting.
So, man, we missed an episode or two, didn't we?
I think or two.
Or two. Okay, fair enough.
It may have been, let's just call it some.
We missed some.
Right.
We had a lot going on recently. I spent some time down in Orlando doing a development or growth seminar, and then we both had the opportunity to go out to Texas here recently.
Yeah, and that was a blast. Or it was a bang.
A bang.
It was a bang.
Man, that was incredible. I am amazed. You know, so the Boot and Shoot, and for those that we're talking about, it's called a Boot and Shoot. It's a military charity shooting event that Benchmark puts on, and it was my first year getting to experience it. Although it was the 10th annual one. Mm-hmm. It's a 1-day event, but when you boil down where money was raised in just a couple of hours, $1.6 million was raised for veterans and families. That was incredible. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, it's insane. The efforts that go into it. And I know you called it a Benchmark event. Benchmark likes to stay in the background on that, you know, because it's one of those things that we're not doing it for the benefit of the business. We're doing it for the benefit of the veteran. And I feel at least that's something that you probably experienced while you were there, because it wasn't about benchmark. It was about, hey, we need more money for these vets.
100%.
You know, and you have people up there that have been impacted by the Brain Treatment Foundation, which is one of the foundations that we support. And they're telling their story of how they made it through this struggle to get to where they are today, and attribute, you know, a good portion, if not a large portion, to the Brain Treatment Foundation. And
you know, that's your guys' culture. It being humble in the sense of, meaning like, you know, deflect, like, oh, it wasn't a Benchmark event. Me from the outside, no, it wasn't Benchmark, but I definitely accolade what I seen from Benchmark, because that $1.6 million that was raised from within.
Yeah.
That was powerful.
And that's what was crazy. It is a very humbling event when you go there, and, you know, it's easy to, in your head, be like, I'm a top producer, I'm a top dog, and then you get there and there's these bigger dogs.
It's huge, like, yeah.
All right, well, I still got a tail, but it's between my legs now.
Yeah, it was incredible what I seen, and oh my gosh, that the weapon that was I don't know how much can we even talk about that, right? But the patent metal, the one that had the patent metal, that is insane.
Yeah, that one, and that is a hand built, one of a kind. Now there's gonna be two.
Yeah,
but two of a kind weapon that. You can't stop in Academy Sports and be like, let me see that right there.
You can't buy it. That's incredible.
So, but the other thing is, we had a ton of fun just like trolling around on the golf carts, you know?
Yes. Ton of fun. But I think we can leave it there to make sure that we don't incriminate ourselves.
Yeah. Sorry.
Sorry.
Well, we didn't break anything.
We didn't break anything.
Maybe
that's true.
Rules, but that's about it.
Maybe a few rules. So what about topic for today? We always like to make sure that we give something of value, something that you guys can use or take away from what we talk about. And something that I thought about to add value is how many times do we? So I'm gonna share a little story that we all have probably experienced. I mean, except for myself. And
speaker not included.
So right, speaker not included. So how many times have you been driving to work? It's Monday morning. You left on time. You got your favorite song on, driver's seat. Everything's going good. Driving down the freeway, and then someone cuts you off. That's never happened to you, right, Alex?
Are you talking about this morning?
This morning. You were the one that cut someone off, though, right?
Touché.
No, but so and then you get cut off, and then we have thoughts about that person that possibly they are ignorant, possibly they're arrogant, possibly they're selfish, they didn't think about me. We have we build these negative thoughts about this person, and so those thoughts could be true, and equally as could be a truth. What if when that guy was loading up his kids that morning, that person, what if when they were loading up their kids that morning, they were going to be heading to drop them off at school, but their little son shut his hand in the car door, and right now they're on the way to the emergency room.
Right.
Then in that manner, that could be true. We don't know it's true, but in that manner, then that person isn't selfish, arrogant, and so on and so forth. And the point that what I'm getting at is when we don't know what the facts are and we fill in the blanks with negativity, we got to understand that we are the truth is we don't know the fact. We could frame this with anything that we want. So we're making a choice to either frame it with negativity or something that can empower us. And I wanted to talk about that a little bit more today. What do you think about that, Alex?
Well, in fairness, if the person that cuts you off is driving a BMW, they probably are exactly what you think. So, just being honest.
If it's green BMW, right?
I don't know who drives those.
Well, and kind of to tie into your joke a little bit, this is not advocating soft boundaries.
Right.
See, this only implies when we don't know the facts. Mm-hmm. You see, if we know the facts and we know someone did something to wrong us, you deserve to have strong boundaries.
Right. Well, even deeper than that, not only do we make that conscious decision of the type of person that just did what they did, we're also going to allow it to impact us
majorly,
and we're choosing. Does that impact us for an hour? I mean, for some people, it'll impact them throughout
the entire day, possibly the week. As soon as they get to work, what are they going to do? Right. Tell everyone how this guy made a poor decision, how selfish he was, how ignorant he was, and not only like most people. I don't know. Maybe I've done it in the past. I mean, I'm still guilty of it to this day. Sometimes, not only do we tell the first person we see, but the second, and the third, and the fourth, and we're embedding this negative thought that isn't even factual over and over again in our mind. What are we doing to ourselves?
Right. And what are we doing to the people around us? You know, the fact is we used to call this water cooler talk. You know, because anything that happens around the water cooler besides drinking water is not going to be good. And so you have, you know, Greg that just walked in that had a great drive in and he's ready to start up his day. And then all of a sudden I come in and I share this negative experience with him and I've just put a cloud over his sunshine. And now he may be able to get over it instantly, or it may be something that takes, you know, why would he do that? Oh, now I remember a time someone did that to me, so now I'm angry.
Bingo.
Because we're impressionable as people. And so if we have negative emotions that are attached to that exact same behavior, it's very easy to re-spark those and rekindle whatever it was that we felt at the time that we actually felt it. And
an important thing to note is that what is the solution to that? What is the call to action to that? An important thing to note is to realize that again when we don't know the facts, because when we know the facts, we're protecting ourselves with boundaries. When we don't know the facts, you're picking the frame of why you think that happened.
Right.
You already are. It already exists. I'm not saying you can. You are picking the frame when you don't know the facts.
Right.
So if you're going to pick the frame anyway and you don't know the facts anyway, you could live a really happy life.
Well, and the other thing we have to consider is, okay, what if we had better preparation? So, for example, the person that cut us off, well, if we were running 10 minutes early to where we were going, would it be a big deal?
Boom.
Or would it be a big deal if we
That's
just
huge.
had all the time? Like, me, myself, when I'm driving, people get in front of me and they'll drive slow, and I'm like, bro, I got all day.
Right.
You're the one that's going to get to where you're going late because I have nobody to answer to, because the fact is if I'm meeting Greg Pease 30 minutes from where I'm at, I'm leaving 50 minutes, you know, to give myself
built in. You've already allowed this to happen.
Right.
And if it doesn't, we talked about this before.
Yeah. And 20 minutes for error, because I'd rather sit in the parking lot for an extra
Bingo.
20 minutes and catch up on emails
Bingo.
than, hey, I'm running late, I'm sorry. Or if I do say I'm running late, it's okay, because instead of running 25 minutes late, I'm only running 5 minutes late.
Right. And I love what you said. If you've built in time So if old Murphy didn't intervene,
Right.
you've built in time that now you have 20 additional minutes when you get there, and people say, I don't have time. I have plenty of time.
Yeah,
I have
exactly.
plenty. You have plenty of time.
Well, you allocate it.
You allocate it.
And that's the thing. So, and I believe you know this, and I believe you're the same way. On your schedule, if you agree to show up at my office like you did this morning, 9 o'clock in the morning, okay, you were knocking on the door at 8:56. You were on time by every sense of the means. But you allow yourself the time afterwards in case it runs over. So you didn't butt it up back to back and say, okay, I got to be out of here by 10:01 or else I'm not going to make my 10:30. You said, hey, I don't have anything till 12:30 because you know how these go. We get to talking, and it could take 10 minutes. It could take 30 minutes. And
essentially, talking about how we're framing things. So, not just framing things that have happened and that are, as soon as it happened, it's already in the past. Okay. As soon as it happened, it's already in the past. So not just framing things in the past, but how you're framing things that will happen in the future.
Yeah.
And framing it with your time. Your time is your most valuable asset. Everyone listening to this already knows that's a truth, but what are you doing to protect your most valuable asset?
Well, the other thing you're talking about with framing things, a lot of what we do and the responses we have are trained responses from previous experiences. So if our mindset is every time somebody cuts us off, we scream and yell and flip people off and do everything else, then that's going to be our reaction every time. But here's the bigger piece. If your children are in the backseat watching you do that, they think that's what you do. When you get cut off, you throw your hands up and do it. So you're programming the unconscious mind of your children and people around you.
And sadly, and we, again, I'm only human, so I make these mistakes. Yeah, sadly, so I make these mistakes too. So I'm not speaking. I'm not speaking at you. I'm speaking with you, if you will. But sadly, not only did we imprint on our kids that in a traffic situation, that's what we do, but at an unconscious level, I'm imprinting my kids. Here's what you do when you don't get your way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's not what we do. We don't get our way. Sometimes, not everything in life is roses and happy and great. There are bad parts, right? And then how do we handle those? That becomes our character.
Well, and do you know how quickly and easily it is to unwind a situation? So there was a time I was headed out to Dallas, and I absolutely did not see this guy coming down the interstate. He wasn't coming down the interstate. He was coming down the highway. And I pulled out, and I smacked it because I had to get up and curve over. Well, he comes up next to me. He's flipping me off and yelling. And I looked at him and said, I'm sorry, I didn't see you. And he's like, all right, okay, you're good. Have a good day.
Right. What do you do from there?
I didn't turn and look at him and be like, no, fuck you.
Right.
I said, hey, I'm sorry. Because why do I need to escalate the situation and put myself in a bad position? For one, we're in Texas. Everyone in Texas has guns. Like, children are born with guns in Texas, But for two, there's no reason to escalate it. It's not, and I know in the younger years there's a quick belief, well, if I back down, I'm being soft. Sometimes you're just wrong, and
100%.
Sometimes your best option as a man is to back off. Because I will tell you this much. Nobody's impressed. Your spouse isn't impressed when you get in a screaming match with a random person on the interstate. They're definitely not impressed when your children are in the car. So why not just say, hey, you know what? You're right.
Own the situation.
Yeah.
Good. Jocko, good.
Right.
Well, and I'm gonna tap back in because where we started with, I'm gonna loop back around.
Right.
What's that? Turn. No. What's the lady that does the Presley does the loop.
Oh, let me get back to you on that.
Let me get back. Yeah, I'm going to loop back around to the beginning. Circle back.
Yeah.
So we started with getting cut off. So understand. So let's look at when we talk about how we frame something. That guy was extremely mad at you, and in his mind, he framed it that you did him wrong and intentionally. Right. Because if he didn't think you did it intentionally, odds are he wouldn't have been that upset, and I believe that to be true because when he found out that it wasn't intentional, he backed down.
Yeah.
Okay? He framed it that way, but the fact was you literally just made a mistake and didn't see him.
Right.
And he could have framed that differently and not drove up because everyone in Texas does have guns. What if you would have pulled one? And I'm not just saying you, but you could have been anyone else on that side of the car.
Right.
But that's what I want to offer you about around reframing. Odds are, perception is projection.
Yeah.
What we perceive is what we're projecting. But the fact of the matter is, your day is not my day. I seen something, I think it was yesterday. It said, no one will see what you see, even if they see exactly what you saw.
That's
Because everyone will have their own perception of what they saw, even if they saw the same thing that you saw.
Right.
And so if that's a truth, what our perception is unique to us, and then we're projecting that on others. It could match up sometimes, and sometimes it literally does match up, but there's plenty of opportunities where it doesn't.
Yeah. And that's what's crazy is the way that each person perceives things. That's where you almost have to be cautious in those situations where you're, delivering something. And I'll use this as an example, and we'll circle back.
Circle back.
But, text messages and emails are very, this is a big issue with them, because you may send this out and say, hey, Greg, we haven't got it back yet, but as soon as I get it, I will let you know. And my intention may be in that voice, and you may read it as, I haven't got it back yet, but as soon as I get it, I'll let you know. And the difference is what is your mindset at the time that you're receiving that?
Right. I can see what is my mindset. Right. Because I could view that as, I might view that as you being snarky to say, but I'll do it when it happens. Like, is he trying to hush me up by telling me that he'll do it when he gets back? But the fact of the matter is, your goal was, hey, I don't even want you to have to worry about it. I'm on top of it for you.
Correct.
But again, good example. We're missing that tone and inflection in those emails. And what we perceive is what we see.
Well, and the big thing is, on the outside of that, and I've already circled this in, but it is about our mindset at the time. So somebody asked 100%. Me last night, because I manage a Facebook group that's actually a pretty large group, and I have to be an active admin in there because there's some conversations that require people to be active.
Moderators and so on. Yeah.
And my neighbor sent me a message and said, how do you do that? And I said, well, the thing is I'll type a response 10 different times and keep deleting it, come back in 10 minutes, and then I'll respond. I'll send it,
Right.
And the reason being is because your initial jump reaction is, whoa, no, it's good. It's like this. And then when you read it, and then you sit on it, and then you reword it, and then you go back and you say, you know what? Maybe his intention wasn't that.
Right.
Maybe my haste to be involved in the heat of the moment was different. And the funny thing is, with this particular situation, the person, and I never took this as this person being aggressive at all, not even the slightest, but he sent me a message on the side and said, I just want you to know I'm not trying to be aggressive. I'm just trying to show this other viewpoint. I said, dude, I totally get it. I said, I never took you as aggressive. However, somebody else, because of the context of what he was putting in, may have, and people did, which is what triggered my neighbor is saying, hey, how are you doing this?
Yeah.
So, and again, it's about how you take it.
And if that, let me get my words together. Let me circle back. So what I want to give you is, if that's a truth, I believe it to be a truth. I just have to say, what I should say is, if you accept that to be a truth, then what are you doing to set up your mind to be in the place that you decided it would be every single morning?
Right.
That puts you in control. So we know that depending on if we can believe that what we're saying is true, if we can believe that. So as Alex said, it's all on our mindset at that time on how we see these things. So if that's true, what are we doing each day to ensure that we protect our mindset? What are you doing each day to ensure that you protect your mindset?
Well, and that's a huge part. It's all about individual consumption. So it's much like you are what you eat. You are what you intake. So
100%.
Greg, when you came up to my room when we were in Dallas, you noticed I was listening to motivational stuff. I wasn't listening to music, rocking out, playing air guitar. I was actually listening to Jocko.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm absorbing in the morning, because we had an event downstairs, which I knew was going to be, based around mindset and everything else. And I wanted my head to be in a position to where I was receptive to all that. I wasn't looking at Instagram. I wasn't on Facebook. I wasn't listening to, whatever music I chose for that morning. It was, hey, I need something to make sure that I am supercharged when I walk out the door. And the best way to do that is by consuming information that is positive in nature.
It reminds me, Zig Ziglar's the one that where I got it from, but who knows who he stole it from? Old
Jesus
Zig
himself.
Right? Maybe. I mean, it is Zig. So that people often say that motivation doesn't last.
Right.
And so Zig said neither does breathing or bathing, so we recommend it daily. Or the breathing one, maybe that one wasn't him. Maybe he said just bathe and recommend it daily. You get the idea. Yeah. So when people say the motivation doesn't last, but each day you're re-upping with a new, whether it be audio, physical book, whether it be a connection with a mentor, a buddy that has a connection, but each day you're re-upping on that mindset. The fact of the matter, it doesn't last. There's no one answer. There's no best book. There's no best quote.
Right.
How many times can we refeed it to ourselves because we are what we eat.
Yeah. Well, and that's huge. I think that's a part where a lot of us lack, that we'll sit here and we'll say, well, you know what, things aren't going right. I'm in a bad mood. I'm this, I'm that. And instead of turning to something positive, we continue to absorb the negativity. So, hey, things are going bad. You know what? I'm just going to get on Facebook. And then you get on Facebook and everybody else has their problems. And suddenly you're absorbed, you know, into or Instagram or TikTok or any of those platforms. When in, actuality, you should have tried to replace whatever you were doing and supplement it with something positive to change your mindset. Because the fact of the matter is, it is our decision on how long we allow somebody to stay in our brain.
100%.
So if Greg walks in
100%.
and says, dude, you're a piece of shit, okay, it's my choice. Like, do I let that last all day? Do I sit there and analyze why I am or what it is that made him say that? Or am I like, okay, cool. Hey, I'll see you tomorrow. You know, like, what do you do with it?
Right.
And the consumption at that point is going to play a huge role in how long you allow that to live with you and live within your mind. The belief I have, and I've shared this in previous podcasts, is everything that's done is an internal job. So we need to do an internal investigation to purge the things that are harming us from achieving what it is that we choose to seek.
Absolutely. And when we look at the things that we're doing, the outward projection, and again with the mindset, you know, it really comes down to what the content that we're putting in.
Yeah. And what you're putting out too. Just like this. I mean, the fact is that our intention with this podcast is that you, the listener, you, the audience, the subscriber, the person that makes this podcast have value, is taking this information and hopefully making life-changing decisions based on something you heard.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, and the fact is, it's not going to be the same food for everybody. Some people are going to say, they're going to look at this and say, hey, you know, I really don't like that food right there. But somebody else is going to look at it and say, I love this, and I had to have it today. And literally have had people that have reached out and been like, I needed this today. Well, you know what? Thank you for sending that, because it made us realize that the time was well spent and that what we were sharing with the audience was something that was well received.
Absolutely. And that's our goal every time. We know that someone, it means so much when people do reach out and say, hey, you know, that hit me today. It means so much. It's just a little bit of fuel for us. But with it or without it, we know that we're reaching people, and sometimes you don't get that opportunity to reach back out, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And you know, if anyone hasn't read, I'm going to give a shout out for a book. Have you ever read The 4 Agreements? It's worth a read. It's a short read, very worth a read. It's fun book. But
is it a coloring book?
It's connect the dots. Pictures only, so Marines can read it. But in the 4 agreements, I won't go over the whole book. Definitely worth a read. One of the agreements is to not take anything personally. And what I share with people, and I've probably shared this insight in previous episodes, but what I share with people, we know not to take things personally when someone says something bad. So I come in, I say, you're an asshole, you know, not to take it personally. We already know that. We learned that from being a kid. But the other piece is when we say don't take things personally, you should be self-aware of what you're doing and where you're going. Right. So if I was to come in here and be like, Alex, you are the man. If you were heightened because of that, then equally a truth would be that you would be lesser without it. Mm-hmm. But you're not.
Right.
Don't take when I say don't take things personally when other people say, you're going to have friends, you're going to have mentors, you're going to have people that want to put positive love on you. This is what we're doing right now. Yeah. You're going to have people that want to put positive love on you. Dissect it in your own time. See where the value is. But you need to be self-aware of what you're doing and where you're going. You don't need to be reactive to what other people are saying and doing to and around you.
Well, and to piggyback off that, actually, we talked about sharing the positive love. So on the other side, there are people that can only share negativity. And every time you talk to that person, there's a big problem. There's this and there's that.
What vampires.
You have to do, yep, exactly. What you have to do is determine, am I going to spend my time with that person, absorbing their negativity? You know, there was a real good, it was like a short video clip that went around, and it has an individual, and they're both walking around, and each individual has a little bit of darkness in it. Mm-hmm. And as this individual is approaching people, he's touching them and absorbing their darkness. Well, suddenly that person becomes dark themselves. And so they're in a position where, and I'll save you what the end of the video was, because the end of the video was funny. It was, I think I sent it to you. Anyways, what they're doing is they're taking all the negativity from everybody else, but they have no time to purge and clear themselves. So now that person is hurting or damaged or depressed or whatever that looks like. And so what I'm telling you is a lot of us are caregivers, and a lot of us are people that are people's people, and we want to absorb everybody else's pain and internalize it and allow them to be free. But the fact of the matter is, you can't do that if you're not okay yourself.
You can't do it if you're not okay yourself. And everyone is worthy of change. Everyone is capable of change, and everyone will only change when they decide they will.
Yeah,
they have to make the decision. That doesn't mean that they're a lesser of a person. That doesn't mean that I won't help them. But proximity is power, and how closer you remain into the vampires.
Yep. So, any closing thoughts? I know this one's ran a little bit longer. I hope that everybody that's listened to this has taken a nugget of value out of it. Like I said, again, at the end of the day, our intention is to share something with you that changes the trajectory of your day, your week, your month, your year, your life, whatever it may be and whatever it looks like for you.
So my final thoughts, I always go with a little call to action for you guys. If you know the facts of why someone did something, you have a decision to make upon what boundaries need to be set, and respect your boundaries. Set your boundaries firm and respect your boundaries. If you don't know the fact of why it happened, can you frame it differently?
That's good. Mine actually mine's gonna fall into that. Mine's gonna be a little more specific. So here's the thing. At the end of the day, we all have a custom reaction to something, right? Something that triggers us to do something or whatever it is. Talk about the guy that cut somebody off, and our reaction is, hey, throwing your hands up and everything else. My challenge is that instead of that pulse quick reaction, try to change that reaction for that individual circumstance. Whatever it is, stop, think, inhale, exhale, change. And the biggest thing that I can challenge you to do is action, inhale, exhale, change.
I really can I double down another? No.
Maybe on the next episode.
That's good. No, I love what you said. That was huge. Just a pause can be enough for you to have your own realization. That was huge. Breath in, breath out. I love that.
Our mind works so rapidly. And see, here's the funny thing. I was taught this. So I went to school. I wanted to be an attorney growing up. Obviously, okay. I'm not. Thank God. But the one thing the instructor told us, he said, when you're on the stand or when you're answering questions or you're doing something like that, you want your people to inhale, exhale, and answer with every single answer, because your brain works so rapidly that what's on the tip of your tongue when the question is asked may be different when you inhale, exhale, process, shoot.
100%. So, love it.
Yeah, I stole that from the
attorneys.
Professor Burke was.
And you guys got it for free today.
Yep. I know. I'm still paying for that. Thanks again for tuning in. We hope that you've enjoyed this podcast. We look forward to talking to you next week. Also, from a video standpoint, I know a lot of my friends on here are videographers, much smarter.
They're smaller than us. They don't work out like us
all the time. but much smarter than me. So, if you see something like, hey, dude, that looks great, but lower the camera, raise the camera, turn the lights down, turn them up, do this, do that. By all means, please give us some feedback, because, again, we're rookies to this.
Yeah.
And I've watched, with the amount of YouTube videos that I've watched, I should be a professional right now. I'm waiting for ITT Tech to send me my certificate. So any advice, we're open to it.
Any filters that can make my skin look smoother?
Right, exactly. I got a filter. Thanks again for tuning in. We'll talk to you soon. All right, perfect. I'm glad that you automatically synced up with that 3-second little pause at the end, because that'll be our close out of the video. So it wasn't like we stopped talking, we jumped up and started running.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, sure would be helpful if they did a perk and a survey if they are motivated. They're not. It's a seller's market.